And number 10 is The Physician, a movie which focuses on an orphan boy named Rob and his determination to study medicine and prevent others from dying of easily treatable diseases in medieval England, and this search for medical answers eventually leads him to Persia. This movie is unique as it brings to life a topic which is very rarely discussed in movies or TV shows, and that is the way in which medical treatments and surgeries were performed during the medieval era. And this movie really highlights the differences between English and Persian society during this time period, with one being a very superstitious culture with poor medical knowledge, while the other one was enjoying a period of great learning and advancement. So if you're looking for a movie that is well acted, perfectly paced, and brings a unique spin to historical dramas, then The Physician is my recommendation for you. The 9th spot on this list goes to Ironclad, a historical movie based around the siege of Rochester Castle, in which a small group of rebels and noblemen try to defend Rochester Castle against King John and his forces after he revokes on the promises he agreed to during the signing of the Magna Carta. This film follows a generic B-grade formula, but what Ironclad does get right though is its battle scenes and siege tactics, which shows how difficult it is for a small force to protect a fortress from invaders. Ironclad may not be the best medieval film ever created, but it's definitely a great recommendation for someone looking for an easy to watch and simple story. And the 8th spot on this list goes to The Last Duel, a historical film based around the last legally sanctioned duel in France's history. This film takes place in 14th century France, with Marguerite de Toubouville, the wife of the knight Jean de Carouge, claiming she had been raped by her husband's best friend and squire, Jacques Legris. This event leads to the two men agreeing to trial by combat, and it sets the central plot and focus of the movie. The Last Duel has some decent acting by the entire cast, but I don't think anyone was all that spectacular, to be honest. The story unfolds in a really unique way, but was a bit long and poorly executed at parts. But overall, the final duel was thrilling to watch and the movie trots along at a decent pace. So if you haven't seen The Last Duel, you should really add it to your watch list, as it's definitely one of the most unique and interesting medieval movies ever created. The 7th spot on this list goes to Mongol, a biographical film which depicts the story of Genghis Khan from his childhood to his rise to becoming the warlord that finally unites all of Mongolia under one ruler. This movie does a great job of slowly building the story of Genghis Khan and his family, and it spends a surprisingly long amount of time delving into his troubled childhood and the huge number of obstacles and struggles he would have to endure before even becoming a minor warlord in Mongolia. My primary critique with this film though is that the third act is very rushed and it depicts Temujin's rise to power far too quickly. But other than this minor critique, Mongol is one of the best medieval movies that you probably haven't seen yet. At number 6 we have the Netflix original film The King, which focuses on the life of King Henry V, who ruled England during the early 1400s, and he is widely remembered to history for his small contingency of English archers and knights and their victory over a much larger and better equipped French army at Agincourt. And this movie follows the life of Henry from shortly before he becomes king to a few weeks after his victory in France. Like most productions by Netflix, this is a high budget, high quality film with fantastic acting by the entire cast, most notable being the quirky performance by Robert Pattinson, which you will either hate or love. But if you can ignore some of the historical shortcomings of the movie, then you will find a great medieval adventure for you to watch. At number 5 it is Braveheart, which tells the story of William Wallace during the events of the First War of Scottish Independence, and how William Wallace grew to become a legendary figure during this time. Braveheart has amazing acting and Mel Gibson does a fantastic job of portraying the primary character. The storyline is also engaging and is interesting and easy to follow from the get-go. So if you're looking for an epic and engaging medieval film, then Braveheart is my recommendation for you. The 4th spot on this list goes to Admiral Roaring Currents, a South Korean epic war movie which focuses on the Battle of Myeongnyang, which sees General Yi Sun-sin fighting against a Japanese Navy fleet numbering over 330 ships with his own small force of only 13 ships. And this movie has some amazing naval battles, and the entire film plays out like an amazing action-adventure film, enhanced with unique and risky military tactics which keep the viewers on the edge of their seat, as defeat always seems to be just around the corner. Admiral Roaring Currents is a perfect viewing experience for anyone looking for an epic historical adventure reminiscent of 300 on the Sea. At number 3, it is the Netflix original film The Outlaw King, which depicts the struggle and sacrifices Robert the Bruce had to endure to win back the Scottish crown from England. This film focuses on the outlaw period of Robert the Bruce's life from 1304 to 1307, when he was rebelling against the English forces in Scotland who far outnumbered his own small tribe of supporters. And I really enjoyed The Outlaw King, as I was aware of the general outline of Robert the Bruce's trajectory to becoming King of Scotland, but I didn't realize till after watching this film just how much sacrifice and loss Robert had to endure before he was able to get even one large victory over the English. And it is due to the emotional bond that this film is able to develop between the characters and the viewer that I rate this film so highly. So if you're looking for a medieval adventure which is pretty historically accurate, perfectly acted, and has an engaging and heartbreaking storyline, then The Outlaw King is my recommendation for you. At number 2, we have Arn the Knight Templar, which sees a fictional character named Arn who becomes a Knights Templar and is a witness or a catalyst to many real historical events such as the Battle of Montgizzard and the Battle of Hattin. Arn the Knight Templar is also the most expensive film ever created in the history of Swedish cinema, and it is a fantastic feat of storytelling, cinematography, and bringing a semi-accurate historical depiction of the Knights Templar to our screens, and it is in my opinion the most underrated medieval movie ever created. And the top spot on this list goes to Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut, which follows a semi-fictionalized portrayal of the life of Balin of Ibelin, who is a crusader nobleman and the primary leader of the defense of the Christian-held Jerusalem during the siege of Jerusalem in 1187 against Saladin and his Muslim forces. And aside from great directing and production quality, this film also has some A-list actors involved with the project, such as Orlando Bloom, Liam Neeson, and Eva Green. So the acting is top tier, and the battle scenes in this movie are some of the best I've ever seen. So although this may be an inaccurate film in a lot of ways, it also does get a lot of things right, and the story about the defense of Jerusalem by a small Christian force against a massive Muslim army led by military genius Saladin is a fantastic story to tell and have brought to the big screen. And I feel that Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut, is a very underrated film and perhaps the best medieval movie ever created in my opinion. So let me know in the comments down below if you agree with my recommendations of the top 50 medieval movies that have ever been created, and if there are any other great medieval movies that I may have missed out on. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark.